Warren, recovering addict. Warren R, recovering addict. Not Warren. You ever hear Warren G? I think that's the rapper. Warren R. Warren R, recovering addict. Thanks for asking me, Brian. I'm going to read something out of the Guiding Principles. I mean, not the Guiding Principles, the Step Working Guides. It's in the preface. It's on the bottom of the preface. It says, this book contains guides to working the 12 steps toward recovery. That's just toward recovery. It does not contain recovery itself. Recovery is ultimately found in each member's personal experience and working the steps. Now, what does that mean? Mine doesn't have to look like Brian's. Brian's doesn't have to look like mine. Recovery is not even in the book. The book just told me that. Recovery is ultimately found in each member's personal experience with working the steps. This book guide contains the 12 steps toward recovery. It does not contain recovery itself. It's not even in the book. Then where's recovery at? It's in my actions. It's in my actions. Now with that said, I'm going to share what my recovery looks like through this 12-step process, and it does not have to look like yours. I shot dope for 37 years. I've been in 27 rehabs, not detoxes, rehabs while I was in there from 22 to 28 days, 30 days. I've been in 27 of those over a 37-year period because I didn't think I was an addict. I just thought I had a drug problem, and I didn't buy into this disease thing. I had a disease, but I didn't know anything about the disease of addiction. The only disease I knew about was VD. I had a venereal disease. I knew about that disease. So all of these rehabs, every time I tell this damn story, man, I get emotional because, let me tell you why I get emotional when I do this. When I go back to that, because I drove a tractor trailer truck for almost 40 years. Now listen to this, Brian. I never had an accident. I'm talking about I'm high every day. I never had an accident. Never had a random drug test. Never, ever, ever. During that whole process. In the last rehab I went in, I was out of the truck for 6 months. But I learned how to drive the truck high. Because my mind says you drive a truck better when you shoot dope. And I believed it. And you couldn't tell me I couldn't drive a truck because I never had an accident. And the last rehab I went in was in 2014. And when I came out, I was out of work for 6 months. And the company said, we're going to have to put you with a trainer. But before that, the company wanted to know where I've been. And I didn't tell them I was in rehab. No, I told them I was in rehab, but I didn't tell them it was for heroin. I told them it was for, I had a toothache and I abused the hydrocodone. So the Department of Transportation got involved and they said, you have to go to those meetings. But before that, when I came back after 6 months and I got in the truck, I could not drive the truck because I have never driven a truck without using dope. The steering wheel was too big. There was too many buttons in the truck. There was too many gears to change, and I knew I couldn't back it. I said, I can't back this truck because the truck is too long. So they said, we're going to put you with a trainer. I didn't tell them that. They said, since you've been out 6 months, we're going to put you with a trainer. So I get in there with a trainer, and he's supposed to be with me for 5 days. So we go to this, we're driving, and we go to these stores, because I drove for a grocery chain, and we go to this store, and the back into this store is real tight. And if anybody drives a truck, they know what I'm talking about. But I had met some people in the fellowship because I was going to meetings because DOT said you got to go to those meetings and you got to do 2 meetings a week. And I thought that was a hard sentence. So I had these friends in the fellowship, but I had my phone sitting there, but I can't use my phone because the train is there. So I'm getting ready to back this truck up. And I'm just as nervous, and my phone rang, and I look down. And I recognize the name. It says Les, Narcotics Anonymous. That right there, a peace came over me. So I backed this truck. And the reason I didn't think I could back it, because I had to, in order to back a truck, I have to think. And I wasn't used to thinking. This was like one of the first times I had to think to back this truck. So I sat the truck up and I backed in there, and the guy says to me, the trainer says, damn, man, I never knew that I can back this truck the way you just backed it, because I do it another way. So he took me back to the company. After the first day, he says, he's okay. He don't have to do the other 4 days. He don't have to do the other 4 days. So something I had been doing for, it was like 30 years at that time. And out of the truck for 6 months, I was afraid. And let me tell you, it took me 1 year to get comfortable. For something I had been doing for 30 plus years, it took me 1 year to get comfortable with driving that truck. 1 year. 1 year. And so the reason I get emotional when I tell that story is because when I come here and start doing the step work process, and they talk about I need to find a God or a higher power or some entity or some force. So it was easy for me. Steps 2, 3, 7, 11, they were easy for me. Because of that 30-year experience is never having an accident, never having a drug test. It was easy for me because I'm like, that's why when I read it Thursday where it says, the same power that brought me to this room will continue to guide me if I allow it. It had been guiding me the whole damn time. How do you shoot drugs with people you know that have AIDS and they die from AIDS-related illnesses, and I shared news with them for several of them for over 10 years, and I don't have it? The same God, the same power that brought me to this room, to this program, will continue to guide me. It had been guiding me the whole time. Because I had to go from the home group that I attend, and I still go there. It's a home group where we don't read the literature, we study it. And there's a difference between reading it, because you ever hear somebody read the literature and they go, what'd you read? I don't know. Hey, I read the basic text. What'd you read? I don't know. So the home group that I started going to, they were doing paragraph by paragraph. It was in the physical, paragraph by paragraph, line by line, word by word. And it took on a deeper meaning for me. Yeah, because they told me, Warren, read the book until you read yourself. And I started seeing myself in the book. The thing about this literature is that everything that's in this book, you're going to see it in the meeting. You're going to see it in the meeting. And the reason it's in the book, it's written in the book, is because it exists. That's why you see it in the meeting. Like we say, I'll give an example. I'll give you a couple examples. Internal strife cripples the fellowship. What does that look like? What does that look like today? The Zoom platform. These are not real meetings. These are not live meetings. This is not a real meeting. Y'all need to go to, these people on the platform, y'all need to go to a physical meeting. That's called internal strife. That's internal strife. This is not a live meeting. Brian look alive to me. Irene look alive to me. I see people that look alive. These people look alive. That's what internal strife cripples the fellowship looks like. Now there's another. I'm gonna give another example. Regardless of clean time, no matter how many steps we have worked, no matter how much clean time we have, my sponsor got a name for it. He calls it, well, you've heard of clean time, clean and crazy. Well, he calls this one clean time developmental disability. Well, what does that look like? A person with a whole lot of clean time. I'm explaining another way. If it's in this book, you're going to see it in the meeting. You're going to see it on the addict, any addict, and I'm any addict. That's including me. Okay. On this platform, a lot of people just do service. So I shared one day, Brian, people in service relapse. So they got mad at me. What does it say that in literature? Guiding principles, first tradition. We can't recover off service alone without doing the hard work of the steps in the traditions. I can't recover off service alone. But it doesn't say people in recovery in service relapse. But this is a newcomer telling me this shit. Then it was a person with 38 years told me. That's what clean time developmental disability looks like. Clean and crazy. He says, what is it? It doesn't say that people in service relapse. I says, no, it doesn't say it like that. She said, well, where'd you get it from? The people in service that relapsed and came back and told me they were only doing service. They weren't doing steps. They told me. And it's a lot. I'm right up under 10 where they call and tell me. Yeah. Yep. And you know what I really don't like? You know what I'm not gonna use the word don't like, but like what really makes me feel it's not as intense. That's what the steps do. That's the beauty of the steps. The steps is like, I'm still gonna feel, it's just not as intense. That's in the damn book. You're still gonna feel, it's just not gonna be as intense, but you're gonna feel. So when somebody says, I need a sponsor, they'll say, I'm looking for a sponsor. And somebody say, I'll be your sponsor, call me. That is a mistake. That is a serious mistake to choose that person when that book says some people will come to these rooms to continue to use people, to use people to continue their habit. What habit? Control. Control. Then they have them doing step work because they call and tell me. I just don't say nothing. They call and tell me. They have me looking up all this stuff and doing all this stuff because everybody's sponsor is different. I get it. But they don't have a sponsor. But they're sponsoring people. Those are the things. It's like, but the book will always correct me, especially in step working guides and the step 10, the 10th tradition. I mean, 10th step, where it talks about right or wrong. This book, this damn literature trip. Whenever I think I got the answer, Brian, they changed it. The people in the book wrote the book, they changed the damn question. One, when you think you're right, you're still wrong. Like, read the book until you read yourself. Let the book talk to you. Well, what about my mother? Your mother don't do steps. What about Sharon? Sharon don't do steps. The steps are designed for you to get better. You don't do steps so she can get better. You do steps so you can get better. Because one, you can get better with a situation. The situation can get better, but you won't get better till you come up out of the situation. Especially when it talks about things like gifts come wrapped in the worst wrapping paper. Now, I do stuff like this because when I hurt or when I feel, I go to that damn literature. My sponsor told me, he says, what you do, because I just got another sponsor a year and a half ago. He says, get you 5 other recovering addicts. But see, he don't know he knows who he's talking to, because I listened some kind of way. He says, I think outside the box. He says, get you 5 other numbers of recovering addicts. But he said, but my mind heard recovering addicts. He didn't say addicts in recovery. A recovering addict is an addict that's changing, that has an open mind, that's not going to agree with my defects. Right? So this guy came to me the other day. He had 28 years. He says, I use the word grand sponsor. I never use it, but that day it slipped out. And he raised his hand like the fourth person. He said after me, the word grand means, and I know he's talking about me. That means the most high, and you can't put no man on. And he's right. And I look up the definition while he was saying it, so he's correct. Now, the problem I had, and listen to what I said, the problem I had was he didn't have to do that the way he did it. He could have just direct messaged me, but they had the chat cut off, so he couldn't do it. But anyway, now, that guy, I'm giving you an example of how this thing really like works. This happened like 2 weeks ago. Now, it said, they already told me, Warren, gifts, because I read it. I study it. Gifts come wrapped in the worst wrapping paper. I'm not going to say he pissed me off because it wasn't as intense, but I felt something. And my expectations were, well, he's got 28 years. He should. Then I had to listen to myself. Because we always talk about learn to listen to learn. Okay, Warren, listen to yourself. Listen to these thoughts you're powerless over. You just, because I wanted to meet him at the state line. I want to kick his ass. These are all these thoughts. These are all these thoughts. Then I want to beat him up with the literature. I said, I can't wait till the next meeting. I'm going to rip him a new asshole with the literature. These are all these thoughts. I'm going to get your ass. These are these thoughts. So now that's what I'm talking about. Learn to listen and listen to learn to your damn self. What obsession looks like. The definition of obsession is an intruder of the mind. An intruder. That's like if somebody breaks in my house, that's an intruder. They broke in and now they're going to tell me what to do. That's obsession. I broke in. Now I'm going to tell you what to do. Then I can say, hey, my disease made me do it. No, it didn't. I'm going to correct you again. Warren, you can no longer use your disease as an alibi for bad behavior. Whenever I think I got the answer, they changed the damn question. They changed the damn question. Now what do I do? I'm practicing humility. How can I practice humility? The only way I can practice humility is I have to be sitting in it. I have to be sitting there. So this guy is the gift that's wrapped in a strange package. I mean, the worst wrapping, he's the gift that came wrapped in the worst wrapping paper, because after that day, I don't want to turn to it right now because of time. The next day after that happened, and just for the day of meditation, showed me how valuable that guy was to me.
5 minutes, Warren.
How many? 5? Okay. He was really of value to me. He helped me with me. See, I can talk about me, but can I look at me? This program is designed for me to look at me. But this disease wants me to focus on somebody, take his inventory. That way I can neglect mine. I thank God for that dude. Yeah. Yes. So when somebody makes me feel from him doing that, okay, he made me feel. No, he didn't make me feel. He said something, I processed it. I made me feel. I did that, but I blamed him. Not knowing that he's the gift. One, he's helping you with you. But how do I teach him? By example. You don't fix a resentment by you having a resentment. So when I see him, I'm going to talk to him. I'm going to just do what I do. That way I'm not allowing his disease to wake up mine. You know, this is the thing. I'm going to close this, Brian. In tradition 1 in God and Privilege says, my instinct is to meet disease with disease. So I looked up instinct. Is instinct a feeling? Absolutely. An instinct is a feeling. And my instinct is if you say something to me, I want to say something right back. That's the instinct. But when I meet it with love and compassion, I'm an opportunity to recover. I'm like, wait a minute. Wait a minute. So I'm not in my feelings. No, you're an opportunity. You're an opportunity. But Warren, being a human, you're going to wander off course. You're going to wander off course. So I have to be mindful. And that's why I do all this stuff. And I'm going to really close with this, where it says, the drugs had the power to change me into somebody I didn't want to be. Recovery has the power to change me into somebody I've always wanted to be. I've always wanted to be. To smile, to laugh, to have fun, to be the same person to all people, not a different person for different people. To free myself from myself. And the only way I can free myself from myself is allowing another person to be themselves. Brian, thank you for asking me. I never go over the time because that time that says time's up, that's a $2 word for really you're trying to tell me to just shut up. Thanks for letting me share.